The FBI defines terrorism as violent acts aimed at intimidating civilians, influencing government policy through fear, or causing mass destruction, assassination, or kidnapping. The deadliest act of terrorism in the United States occurred on September 11, 2001, when over 3,000 people lost their lives in attacks in New York City, Washington, D.C., and rural Pennsylvania. In response, the Department of Homeland Security was established to prevent further attacks, and Congress passed the USA Patriot Act, which expanded government powers for surveillance and detention. However, some felt this infringed on constitutional rights. Since 9/11, there have been ongoing threats and attacks, facilitated by air travel and online radicalization. Radical Islamist propaganda has inspired violence, as seen in the 2014 Boston Marathon bombing by the Tsarnaev brothers. Domestic terrorism is also a concern, with groups like the Aryan Nations, Stormfront, and the Ku Klux Klan committing crimes to intimidate or influence policy. These hate groups target various communities and pose a significant threat to security. Whether acting alone or in groups, foreign and domestic terrorists continue to endanger the safety of Americans. Intelligence agencies and law enforcement heavily rely on technology to monitor terrorist activities, but this same technology is also used to surveil ordinary citizens. Surveillance technology, such as closed-circuit television, CCTV, is commonly used in public spaces like airports, banks, and stores, which can help prevent or solve crimes. Drones equipped with cameras are another surveillance tool used for various purposes, including monitoring public events and border crossings. Smartphone cameras also play a role in surveillance, both for criminal activities like blackmail and for solving crimes. Additionally, the National Security Agency, NSA, has the ability to access citizens' information, a capability that has increased due to the terrorism threat. However, the NSA's actions have faced criticism, particularly after revelations by whistleblower Edward Snowden, who leaked classified documents revealing extensive surveillance programs. Snowden's actions sparked debate, with some viewing him as a hero for exposing government overreach, and others considering him a traitor for endangering national security. In response to public concerns, Congress passed a bill in 2015 to end the NSA's bulk phone records collection program, following a federal appeals court ruling. While surveillance efforts may contribute to public safety, there are ongoing debates about the balance between security and individual privacy rights. Many states in the United States have three strikes laws, which mandate stiff sentences of 20 to 30 years for individuals convicted of a third crime, often leading to racial bias as a significant number of those sentenced are African Americans. The U.S. incarcerates a large portion of its population, with some arguing that prison deters crime while others believe it fosters criminal behavior, particularly among nonviolent offenders. There has been a shift in attitudes towards drug crimes like marijuana use, with several states legalizing or relaxing laws regarding its use by adults. However, concerns have been raised about police responses to public disturbances, particularly in cases involving young African American men, leading to questions about racial profiling and police conduct. Many police officers now wear body cameras in response to such incidents. Gun violence remains a significant issue in the U.S., with thousands of deaths annually, including a significant number of children and teens. Debates over gun control laws continue, with some arguing that they infringe upon Second Amendment rights, while others advocate for stricter regulations. Another growing concern is human trafficking, particularly involving women and children who are brought into the country against their will, often for forced labor or prostitution. Poverty is a major factor contributing to human trafficking, with victims mainly from regions like South Asia, Southeast Asia, and Central America. Efforts to combat human trafficking are focused in states like California, Texas, and Florida, But the issue persists due to global trade and the demand for cheap labor. The United States holds a significant position on the global stage, renowned for its freedom, prosperity, and optimistic outlook. However, this prominence is not without its critics, as some individuals harbor resentment towards the country's influence and power. In navigating its interactions with other nations, the United States is guided by its national interest, which encapsulates its objectives and aspirations. These interests encompass a variety of areas, including political endeavors such as promoting democracy in emerging nations and ensuring military strength. The United States plays a pivotal role in global affairs through its active participation in international organizations. One notable example is its membership in the United Nations, UN, an organization dedicated to safeguarding the interests of all nations. Despite this shared goal, there are instances where the UN's actions may diverge from those of the United States, leading to differing viewpoints within the American populace. While many Americans endorse the UN's mission, there are others who advocate for the country's withdrawal from the organization. In the year 2000, the UN established goals aimed at addressing pressing global issues such as poverty, hunger, and disease. While some countries have made significant strides towards achieving these goals, progress remains uneven across the international community. Another significant organization the United States is actively engaged with is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. Although originally formed with a focus on countering the Soviet Union, NATO's mission has evolved to include interventions aimed at curbing violence and combating terrorism. Notable instances of NATO intervention include its involvement in regions like Bosnia and Herzegovina, Kosovo, and the Middle East. Additionally, NATO has undertaken efforts to quell conflicts such as the civil war in Libya and to combat piracy in areas like Somalia. In times of natural or human-made disasters, the United States often takes a leading role in providing humanitarian assistance. Numerous organizations specialize in global health initiatives and AIDS relief, working tirelessly to mitigate malnutrition, cholera, and other ailments that claim countless lives annually. Moreover, the United States is committed to upholding human rights globally and frequently advocates for the cessation of human rights abuses in other nations. For instance, the country has demonstrated its disapproval of oppressive regimes by imposing measures such as travel restrictions, as seen in its response to South Africa's apartheid government. The Department of State plays a crucial role in managing international relations, grappling with the complex task of promoting peace, safeguarding U.S. business interests abroad, and fostering global cooperation. American foreign policies exhibit variability across regions and individual countries. The United States maintains amicable relations with its close neighbor, Canada, with mutually beneficial trade and robust tourism between the two nations. Conversely, relations with Mexico and certain Central American countries often face strains due to issues such as the drug trade and illegal immigration into the United States. In a significant shift in 2015, U.S. policy towards Cuba underwent a notable transformation. President Obama and Cuban President Castro collaborated to reestablish diplomatic ties, marking the end of a more than 50-year separation. Relations between the United States and Europe remain strong, buoyed by cultural ties and flourishing trade and tourism. However, tensions have arisen in recent years with Russia. Following the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991, hopes for a democratic Russia were tempered by the ascent of Vladimir Putin, whose leadership has been characterized by the imprisonment of political adversaries, suppression of dissent, and resistance to democratic reforms. In 2014, Putin's decision to deploy Russian troops into Ukraine's Crimean Peninsula resulted in its eventual annexation by Russia, prompting swift condemnation and the imposition of sanctions by the United States, the European Union, and other nations. Consequently, relations between the United States and Russia have become increasingly strained. The People's Republic of China stands as a dominant force in East Asia, wielding significant power. However, the United States approaches its relationship with China cautiously, particularly due to concerns about the communist government's violations of basic human rights. On the economic front, China has experienced remarkable growth, emerging as the world's largest exporter and holding a substantial portion of the U.S. public debt. This dynamic has led to a significant trade deficit for the United States, highlighting a scenario where American imports from China outweigh exports to China. The United States maintains a multifaceted relationship with South Korea, with U.S. forces stationed there to provide protection against the communist regime of North Korea. In Southeast Asia, positive relations are enjoyed with communist-led countries such as Vietnam and Indonesia, although there are concerns regarding violent Islamist terrorist groups like Jamaat Islamiyah. In dealings with India, the United States enjoys favorable interactions, driven in part by American businesses relying on India's advanced high-tech industries. However, relations with Pakistan, also situated in South Asia, are marked by uncertainty, stemming from accusations of sheltering Taliban fighters and providing refuge to Osama bin Laden. The Middle East presents a myriad of challenges for the United States, including ongoing wars, terrorist activities, and a pervasive lack of trust. Given the United States' reliance on the region's oil resources, navigating this complex landscape remains intricate. Syria's protracted civil war has resulted in the displacement of millions, while the emergence of the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, ISIS, advocating for a strict Islamic state, adds further complexity. Although the United States supports Iraq's efforts against ISIS, there persists widespread distrust of U.S. intentions in the region. Formal diplomatic relations between the United States and Iran have been absent since 1979, when the U.S. supported Shah was overthrown, ushering in an Islamic theocracy. In 2015, a proposed agreement aimed at curtailing Iran's nuclear program in exchange for the easing of punitive sanctions was put forward. The relationship between Israel and the United States is characterized by strong economic, diplomatic, and military ties. The United States provides substantial military aid to Israel, and Israel holds a favorable view of the United States. Additionally, Turkey stands as an ally in the region. Africa presents a diverse array of challenges for U.S. foreign policy. North African nations like Libya and Egypt are steeped in Islamic culture, with recent years witnessing protests and ongoing power struggles. In West Africa, Islam exerts its influence, with the region grappling with various socio-political complexities. A terrorist group, Boko Haram, is centered in Nigeria, but is active in nearby countries. This group is an ally of ISIS and wants to establish an Islamic State. It is responsible for the kidnapping of 276 primarily Christian schoolgirls that it sold into slavery. Poverty stems from various factors, encompassing illness, natural calamities, and economic downturns. Additionally, lack of skills, limited childcare access, illiteracy, and racial discrimination contribute to its persistence. Many individuals who are employed still find themselves below the poverty line, grappling with low-wage jobs that offer minimal benefits. Advocates argue that increasing the minimum wage could alleviate this hardship by bolstering purchasing power, though some contend it may adversely affect small businesses and lead to job losses. However, recent instances of states raising their minimum wages have coincided with job creation. A glaring indicator of poverty is the homeless population, with approximately 750,000 Americans lacking access to shelter on any given night. This issue underscores broader challenges such as unemployment, low-paying jobs, and exorbitant housing costs. The income disparity between the affluent and the impoverished has widened in the 21st century, driven by factors like tax policies favoring the wealthy and the financial strain faced by lower-income individuals in accessing health care, child care, and higher education. Additionally, the global economy structure pits low-wage workers against their counterparts abroad, while corporate CEOs command hefty salaries. Income inequality poses significant societal challenges, including hampering economic growth, fostering financial instability, exacerbating debt burdens, and limiting opportunities for upward mobility. Addressing this issue is crucial for fostering a more equitable and prosperous society. Vast amounts of money are poured into political campaigns, with special interest groups leveraging these funds to wield influence. In a landmark decision in 2010, the Supreme Court ruled in Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission that the First Amendment does not restrict political expenditures by nonprofit corporations. Consequently, corporations are permitted to finance advertisements for political candidates, though direct contributions to candidates remain prohibited. This ruling also spurred the proliferation of political action committees, PACs, which aggregate campaign contributions from members and utilize the pooled funds to support or oppose candidates or legislative initiatives. The emergence of super PACs represents a further evolution in this landscape, as these entities are able to amass unlimited sums of money from corporations, unions, and individuals alike. The resulting power and sway of these groups within the political sphere are considerable. Throughout its history, the federal government has grappled with issues related to the welfare of its citizens. In response to the Great Depression, President Franklin D. Roosevelt enacted New Deal programs aimed at providing employment opportunities for the unemployed. Opposition from Republicans arose due to concerns about the expansion of governmental authority. Similarly, in the 1960s, President Lyndon B. Johnson introduced initiatives to combat poverty and racial discrimination. Once again, Republicans voiced objections to these programs. Divergent opinions persist among leaders regarding the government's role in addressing poverty. Some advocate for robust federal intervention through programs, while others advocate for a more limited government role. Since the implementation of the New Deal, Social Security Administration has been a primary avenue through which individuals receive aid. Funded by taxes levied on working Americans, Social Security faces challenges due to an aging population, resulting in more funds being dispersed than collected. Similar challenges confront Medicare, which provides healthcare coverage for disabled Americans and the elderly. Proposals such as imposing restrictions on benefits or increasing the age of eligibility have been suggested to address these fiscal concerns. In 2010, President Barack Obama signed the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act into law, aiming to enhance Americans' access to health care. This legislation facilitated coverage for many uninsured Americans. The United States boasts abundant natural resources and picturesque landscapes that captivate visitors from densely populated regions. However, these resources are not uniformly distributed across the country. Fertile farmland is not ubiquitous, and water availability varies, with some areas facing droughts while others contend with floods. Concerns about environmental sustainability are mounting, with dwindling water supplies exacerbating the situation. Droughts are increasingly common, intensifying the urgency of addressing water scarcity issues. Moreover, poor air quality plagues certain cities, and forests are imperiled by illegal logging and detrimental coal mining practices. To address environmental threats, the government has enacted legislation and established conservation agencies. Conservation efforts date back to the 1800s, gaining renewed emphasis in the 1960s and 1970s. The Clean Air Act of 1963 was instrumental in regulating air pollution, while the formation of the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, in 1970 marked a pivotal step in addressing pollution, water and air quality, and toxic waste emissions. The Clean Water Act was enacted to combat water pollution, and legislation exists to safeguard plant and animal species, including the Endangered Species Preservation Act, which shields threatened species and their habitats. In addition to federal regulations, individual states like California have implemented stringent environmental policies. However, not everyone supports these laws, with some arguing that environmental preservation hampers industrial progress. Balancing environmental concerns with economic interests remains a topic of debate. Dependence on fossil fuels, including oil, natural gas, and coal, poses significant challenges. When burned, fossil fuels emit gases into the atmosphere, leading to the trapping of heat and subsequent climate warming. This phenomenon, known as global warming, contributes to global climate change, characterized by rising temperatures and extreme weather events such as droughts and floods. Some argue that reducing emissions of these gases could mitigate the adverse effects of climate change. Debate surrounds the question of whether human activities are chiefly responsible for climate change. With the widespread utilization of non-renewable fossil fuels, efforts are underway to explore alternative energy sources. One contentious method is fracking, a drilling technique for extracting oil and natural gas. While fracking enables access to previously inaccessible deposits, concerns persist regarding its environmental impact. Fracked wells consume vast amounts of water, and methane emissions can occur. Additionally, instances of explosions and the release of harmful chemicals raise environmental alarm. Moreover, fracking has been linked to an increase in seismic activity in regions not typically prone to earthquakes. Another environmental concern is the loss of biodiversity, encompassing the variety of ecosystems and species within a region. Ecosystems with high biodiversity are more resilient to disturbances and better equipped for recovery. Preserving biodiversity, particularly in food crops, is crucial for ensuring agricultural resilience. The decline in honeybee populations further exacerbates these challenges, as bees play a vital role in pollinating many food crops. Habitat loss and dwindling food supplies are cited as contributing factors to the decline in honeybee numbers, with meadows increasingly giving way to agricultural or suburban development. Efforts to address these environmental issues are essential for ensuring the sustainability of ecosystems and food systems alike. Americans have made notable strides in environmental improvement, embracing practices such as recycling, utilizing alternative energy sources, and phasing out harmful pesticides.